very end or in front of me?
Why don't you grab? Go ahead, you get in front of me.
I don't think I've ever tried that before either. go right down these steps back here. And it is a gorgeous water view once we get down here. I love it. Hopefully we'll see a lot of local boaters out. You guys are locals, you know. We've got a ton of boaters out here. And there's a nice little sandbar out here that they'll anchor up to and let the kids get out and play. And great spot. There was a retired Navy admiral that lived here on the island. His name was Admiral Blue. And so this became known as Blue Point because he put in this bulkhead here. His dream was he wanted to have a little marina here for the snowbirds that came down when they brought their big boats. He was going to dredge this out and have this be the marina because they'd be Admiral Blue. Sorry, you guys couldn't hear me. He was a retired Navy admiral that lived here on the island. And these guys are just hanging out on the sandbar. I love it. And yeah, his dream was to put in a marina here where they could bring in bigger boats during the winter months as they came down. But he passed away before he could be in the Fort George River coming this way. Mayport's right around the corner here. They test that steering collar when you got back on. Did everybody test that steering? I just want to make sure you're nice and comfortable with it before we start riding. Perfect. Okay. We're just going to go forward here about 30 or 40 yards, and there's a great spot right here in the woods. We're going to take pictures with you guys.
How fun is this?